Welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we are going to be mastering the Hermes AI Agent. Think of setting up your Hermes agent kind of like a video game progression system. Getting the basics right at the very beginning, that's the difference between a frustrating, buggy experience and unlocking pure, sustainable magic where your AI actually grows with you every single day.
Okay, let's dive right into this roadmap and level up together. We're going to cover 1. The foundation, 2. Core mechanics, 3. Upgrading the brain, 4. Going rogue and local, and finally, 5. The end game.
Level 1, the foundation. Establishing your hardware and setup. Now, setting up your hardware might sound a bit intimidating at first, right? But the really beautiful thing about Hermes is that anyone can start laying this groundwork, regardless of what kind of budget you're working with. Let me reassure you by just walking through these 4 diverse hardware options. At the high end, you've got a Mac Studio with an M4 chip and 64 gigabytes of RAM. Running that 24/7 is a fantastic, incredibly powerful driver. But you definitely don't need to break the bank. You can actually rent computer space on the cloud with a virtual private server, or VPS, for as cheap as $5. Alternatively, you can just grab an old wiped laptop lying around the house with 16 gigs of RAM and leave it on. Or simply use your current personal computer. If you do go the personal machine route, just make sure you use Docker. That containerizes your agent so it doesn't go bananas interacting with the rest of your personal files. So once you've got your hardware picked out, getting Hermes actually onto it is incredibly simple. You really have 2 easy paths here. You can copy-paste a quick string of code right into your terminal if you prefer that route. But for a completely stress-free alternative, there's a really clean native desktop app available for download. It features an interface you're already totally familiar with from traditional chatbots, which keeps things visually intuitive right out of the gate. Level 2, Core Mechanics. Unlocking tools, skills, and cron jobs. All right, this is where we really start unlocking our agent's base stats. We're transforming it from a simple chat interface into a highly functioning assistant. The absolute crucial point here is understanding what skills are in this ecosystem. Think of skills as a custom instruction manual. Unlike standard AI that essentially resets every single chat, Hermes advertises itself as the agent that actually grows with you. You can explicitly teach it to complete specific, repeatable tasks over time. So, for example, you could build a skill that teaches the agent a very precise evaluation framework to score new business ideas based entirely on your personal criteria. And this brilliantly illustrates that exact concept in action. Using that custom business idea evaluator skill, the user asked Hermes to evaluate a personalized AI learning app. The skill took their complex, personalized criteria, like specifically wanting a bootstrap lifestyle business without raising any VC capital, weighed all those dimensions, and then outputted a glowing 9.2 out of 10 score. Plus, it gave actionable advice on whether to actually proceed with the MVP. It's a real game changer. Now, alongside skills, we have cron jobs. A cron job is simply a scheduled routine or task that runs automatically at a specific time or interval, totally without you having to manually push a button. Think about your daily life for a second. So much of what we do on a computer is just highly repetitive. Automating these daily workflows saves a massive amount of time and mental energy. Just to give you a real sense of what this looks like in practice, you could have a cron job set for 11 p.m. every single night that quietly compiles all the daily news you care about into a tidy audio brief. It's just sitting there, ready for you to listen to when you wake up. You can also have automated nightly health checks running in the background to ensure your models and complex multi-agent systems are operating exactly as they should be. To push these mechanics even further, Hermes utilizes something called MCP, or Model Context Protocol. This is essentially the method for giving your agent third-party superpowers. If Hermes doesn't have a native integration for a specific software, an MCP bridges that gap. For instance, integrating Notebook LM via an MCP gives Hermes incredibly deep research capabilities, expanding its utility way beyond its base code. Level 3, Upgrading the Brain, Mastering the 4 tiers of memory. I really want to highlight why this matters so much. If you've ever used other agents and gotten super frustrated because they suddenly forget instructions or just slow down to an absolute crawl, well, that's due to poor memory management. A robust tiered memory system stops your AI from acting like a goldfish and turns it into a true context-aware collaborator. This memory escalation actually happens across 4 distinct tiers. Tier 1 consists of core memory files about the user and the agent. These are kept deliberately brief so the system stays incredibly fast and doesn't get bogged down. Tier 2 uses a SQLite database to search through your archived conversation logs, but only when it specifically needs to recall something you chatted about. Tier 3 is where it gets really advanced, introducing an external plugin called Honcho. This works in the background to learn your implicit behaviors and patterns without you having to do a single thing. And finally, Tier 4 is the integration of an Obsidian second brain. This is a massive vault where you can deliberately store all your expansive project files, PRDs, and research for the agent to access on demand.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing this memory system yield real, tangible results. Check out this 60-minute metric. By connecting to that Tier 4 Obsidian second brain, Hermes was asked to look up a previously saved PRD, a product requirements document for a food tracker app. Because it had total access to that long-term memory vault, Hermes retrieved the document and instantly generated a flawless, step-by-step, 60-minute MVP scope. It even came complete with visual time specs and specific commands to build it out immediately. No way, right? Level 4, going rogue and local, taking control of your AI models.
Okay, this is where we upgrade the engine of Hermes itself. We're looking at the fundamental choice between renting intelligence from the cloud or completely owning it locally on your own machine. Let's weigh the two options based on our source material. On one side, we have cloud models. Anthropic's Sonnet 5 is widely considered the best overall driver for Hermes. It is undeniably powerful and super easy to connect via an API key. But because you're paying per use, it can get incredibly expensive if you run a lot of tasks. On the flip side, we have local open source models, like the Qwen 3.635b. Running a local model means it is completely free to operate and totally private. All your data stays right there on your hardware. The only trade-off here is that it requires just a little bit of manual setup.
And honestly, that setup isn't a massive hurdle at all. It only takes about 30 minutes to get a local model up and running using something called llama.cpp. While you absolutely could use a simpler model manager like a llama, dedicating that half hour to configure llama.cpp gives you much faster running speeds and way more direct control over exactly how the model behaves. Level 5, the endgame, building software with multi-agent systems. Once you have your hardware, your memory, and your models perfectly tuned, this is where the true magic of software creation actually happens. Let's move to a Mullen and see how this builds out in reality. Through an integration with Discord, a prompt was fed to Hermes to draft a productivity app, specifically a Pomodoro tracker. The requirements were very clear. It needed to be a floating desktop widget with a visual timer, it had to allow for optional text input to label the work, and it needed to automatically save the completed study sessions straight into that Obsidian vault we talked about earlier. The speed and autonomy here are just staggering. Hermes took that spec, replied in Discord that it had queued the build, and then autonomously completed the coding. It outputted a fully functional desktop app that successfully stayed pinned on top of all other windows while the visual timer ticked down. It executed the entire build perfectly, without requiring a single manual line of code from the user. Literally magic. But wait, you aren't just limited to one agent working on one single task. Hermes features a native compound board for multi-agent orchestration. This means you can run parallel workflows at the exact same time. You could instruct one agent in your system to jump into the code and change that new Pomodoro app to pastel colors, while simultaneously having a completely different agent brainstorm and draft technical specs for brand new widgets. It is entirely parallel, automated productivity. The whole shebang. This progression system unlocks some truly incredible power. From choosing the right foundation, teaching your agent repeatable skills, expanding its memory into an entire secondary brain, to eventually running it completely free and local, you end up with a multi-agent system capable of building robust software right on command. So I'll leave you with this. Now that you have the exact blueprint to master this technology, what will you build with your Hermes agent? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and keep exploring.